Hello, and thank you for joining us for ABC 24 this week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You're here for the real stories behind the big stories, and we hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday at either 9 a.m. or 10:35 p.m. All right, let's see who we have at the table today. I call this the red edition because we all seemingly showed up in red. Of course, ABC 24 political analyst Otis Sanford. We have Deidre Malone of the Carter Malone Group, and we have Sam Hardiman, a reporter for the Daily Memphian. Thank you all so much for being here, as always. Yeah. All right, so let's get to today's topics. They are red hot. So we'll get into the vote to bring an ICE detention center to Mason, Tennessee. Then the judge's ruling on former MSCS Superintendent Marie Fagan's preliminary injunction. We'll also discuss Shelby County Commission's decision on school board term limits. And lastly, next year's local election races are seeing motion with endorsements for sheriff and county mayor, plus Senator Marsha Blackburn's private meeting in Memphis that only certain media was invited to. We know she's running for Tennessee governor. So lots to tackle. Let's get into it, starting with the little old town of Mason, Tennessee. This week, Mason, Tennessee's mayor and board of aldermen voted in favor of two contracts, one with CoreCivic, a private prison company, and another with ICE to reopen the West Tennessee detention facility as an immigration detention center. CoreCivic touted that this would create 240 jobs at about $26 per hour, bringing in about $325,000 annual property taxes and about $200,000 in impact fees. The majority of the Mason residents who attended that meeting were outraged. Many of them told our crews that they did not support the vote. Here's a bit of the back and forth between Mason Mayor Eddie Noman and the citizens.
At the end of the day is a win-win situation for Mason. It's nothing. Why no? You're talking about, you don't know what you're talking about. What they're doing, the small amount of money they're getting is not worth it.
What I see, all money ain't good money. So now, when you talk about what's good for the town, that prison ain't never been good for the town.
Seems like definitely there was not time for input, and obviously when you don't have the time to look at something, it really makes you question, how did this vote really go down if you weren't sure even what you were voting for?
That last person you heard from was a representative from the American Civil Liberties Union of Tennessee, which is known as the ACLU. That group sent a letter to Mason leaders Friday morning demanding that they block all actions and contracts with CoreCivic and ICE. Now, part of the ACLU's argument there was because there was confusion around the vote, that they needed 4 votes for both contracts in order for the whole thing to pass. Now, we know that the contract with the CoreCivic got 4 votes, but with ICE it got 3. But it's been reported that they approved it, but their fight is that it didn't go by policy standards. So, Otis, I'm going to toss it to you now. What do you make of the decision?
Well, the term I have to use is a hot mess here, because that's what happened the other night at this meeting, and a lot of people are to blame. But I did a little reporting on this earlier in the week, Pepper. And what we learned, and what I learned, was that the board did have a public discussion about this way back at the early part of the year, in March. That's when this first came up, that the facility and Department of Homeland Security, which is over ICE, they were talking then about reopening this prison. And they had some discussion. The legal people in Mason, put together and made some changes to their proposal and sent it to them, but they heard nothing. It was crickets for over 4 months. And a lot of people thought that they had just dropped the whole thing. But then only about 3 days before this meeting, Homeland Security and CoreCivic said, we want to move ahead, we want you to vote right now. And that did not give them the time that they needed to have another discussion, another public, a broader discussion before the vote. And so there are a lot of people to blame about this, and specifically the mayor, Eddie Noman. He was not mayoral that night. He should have let them have their say. He argued with everybody there, and that's how it turned out to be what it is. I don't think this is over yet.
I do want to make one small correction. That last representative was from Tennessee for All, Rebecca Gorbea, not the ACLU, but the ACLU did send a letter on Friday. But yes, Otis, all good points to make, of course. Now, Deidre, I want to ask you, what is the process playing out here with the ACLU's letter? I mean, does pushback matter? I mean, it's going to Mason leaders, but could this be taken to the courts?
It could be potentially be taken to the courts, but I don't really think it's going to matter. I think if the mayor and the leadership in the town wants to have good faith, they could go back and vote on it again. You know, allow an opportunity for the community to come out and have that discussion again and really try and educate them on the economic benefits of having this in the town. I don't think they'll do that, though. I think they'll try and push through, get those contracts executed, and move forward.
And it's not the first time that we're seeing economic development seem to take over the public's voice. So, Sam, you know, we're seeing a number of developments coming into Tennessee lately, a lot of reporting from the Daily Memphian as well. The resistance from the public is really amping up. Does it feel like voices matter when it comes to new developments?
It's a really good question, Pepper. I'll answer it this way. I think people's voices obviously matter. It's a democracy, right? As far as I'm aware, we're still a democracy, and that wasn't a commentary. But at the same time, it really depends, right? Like in this case, there's a board vote that is suspect, right? That people are raising questions about whether this democratic action was legal. In other cases, what we're talking about, depending on we're talking about XAI or other things, is where does the public get a say that's actually a legally binding one, right? There is a difference between people being upset and having a real democratic process to stop something versus if someone has a right by use to do something, right? And officials believe that to be the case, it becomes a matter of then, is that interpretation right? And I think that's the question always, right? It also is, like, I think, incumbent on the public to be, and it's hard in these times, but to be as educated as possible about what they can do, right? Because there are always, the more educated you are, the more information, the more questions you can raise. And so I think that's where we are. And I think it's difficult.
Let me make two other quick points here, and one of them is to what you said, Deidre.
Of course
about
it is.
Of course it is. It's about the financial part of this. Yes, Mason does stand to gain a lot of money in property taxes and some other fees. But we have to really look at the history of Mason here. And Mason has not shown historically that they were financially able to run the town in a great financial way. Remember, the state comptroller's office had to come in there, and they even asked the town to dissolve the charter a few years ago. So there's that. And there's also the issue around, you know, those jobs that we're talking about. Are they going to be local people? I doubt that they will. I think CoreCivic is going to bring their own people in. And then finally here, this is a broader issue for Shelby County, because if that facility opens, you're going to see a lot more people being snatched off the streets here in Memphis. And I think that's potentially a problem with unrest here in the city, because they're only going to be shipped up, 30 miles to this facility. So there's a broader issue here that we have to talk about.
Something everybody should care about. I do have to end it there because we have so much more to get to. On the other side of the break, the latest move in court for former MSCS Superintendent Dr. Marie Fagans. And we're also going to talk about the commission's vote on term limits for the school board. Stay with us.